Wait, so you're telling me this is the bad one? Welcome back, guys. I know it has been a long time to the five of you that really care about where I've been. It's been 6 months. I've just been really busy with work and stuff, but I'm finally back to talk some more Realm of the Elderlings because I'm really excited to say that, guys, I have read the entirety of the Rain Wild Chronicles. That is these 4 books right here, and I'm here to give my review of them. And just like it always be on this channel, there's none of that spoiler-free review nonsense here. We're reviewing the entire series, and I want to get in and analyze things that I really like or things that I didn't like so that you actually understand where I'm coming from and what I'm saying in my review. And so for that reason, this is a full spoiler review. These books, seemingly, to me, have a reputation that's set in stone. And that is the fact that these are the bad ones in the Realm of the Elderlings, and I don't get it. I think these books are really good. But firstly, before I can talk to you about why these books are really good, let me tell you a little bit how I'm approaching this series. Because the series is a little weird, right? Because you look at it and, hey, look at it, it's 4 books, so it's a quartet, right? But no, because if you do a little research like I did, you'll learn that actually this series is a duology. Because you see, books 1 and 2 were written as one volume, one manuscript, and the publisher cut it in half for reasons. Dragon Keeper, Dragonhaven are one book, and I read them as one book back to back. Then you got City of Dragons and Blood of Dragons. Well, books 2 and 3, right? No siree, because I also saw that this was originally supposed to be one book, and it was cut in half for reasons. We've really got 2 books. Dragon Keeper, Dragonhaven, and City of Dragons, Blood of Dragons. So this is not a quartet, it is a duology. And I'm going to be reviewing these books as if it is a duology. So if I mention book 1 or book 2, know that this is book 1 and this is book 2. And I think you should read it this way as well, because I think these books flow a lot better and make a lot more sense when you read them as a duology. Well, let's talk about book 1, because book 1 is definitely a book that has a set-in-stone reputation as, like, the worst of Realm of the Elderlings by far, as the boring one, as the YA one, as the little kitty one for babies who like love triangles. I'm here to tell you that I'm kind of maybe a Rain Wild's defender, because I think not only is the first book good, I think it might be just as good as a lot of the other books that we've read so far in the series. Why is that? Thank you for asking. It's because the characters are awesome. Like, the characters are really good. Yes, including Thymera. We'll get to it. We've got all the dragons that are hatching after the end of the Live Ship Traders trilogy, but they kind of suck. They're crippled and deformed, and because of that, Tintaglia doesn't really care about them, and so she's abandoned them, and the people of the Rain Wilds don't really like them and kind of see them as a nuisance, and so they're left to squander in the mire and muck of this little holding pen, and so their development is stunted, and nobody wants them anymore. And so, in kind of like a series of events, basically all of our characters in one way or another get connected to the dragons and decide that they are going to try and find the ancient dragon city of Kelsingra and let the dragons live and thrive there. And so the entirety of book 1, all 1,000 pages of it, are one journey on one boat down one river. And I think it's great. I think a lot of people are quick to dismiss Thymera because she's a young woman character who ends up in a love triangle for the entirety of the first book, and so they just completely write it off as a cliche YA love triangle. But look, I think you're not giving it enough credit, because the story of Thymera is not the story of one entitled girl not knowing which of these 2 entitled boys to pick, and that's the entire conflict and drama. No, like, Thymera's story is a coming-of-age story and a story of self-discovery, because Thymera, as a character who's been touched by the Rain Wilds, who's been shunned by society, is someone who has spent her entire life being taught that she is not deserving of any of the privileges of life that everybody else gets to experience, so that she's not deserving of freedom or adventure or, a career, a job, or, love. And so when she goes on this journey and she realizes that she no longer has to abide by these rules or these things that she's been taught, it's not just about the love triangle. It's about the fact that Thymera is discovering all of these feelings and these struggles for the first time. And her struggle is not just which boy will I pick, It's, am I even deserving of the choice to pick either of these two boys or none of them, right? Like, what do I deserve? What freedoms am I allowed to have? What choices am I allowed to make for myself? Am I allowed to make any choices for myself? That's her entire struggle in this book. And it's not just about the two boys. Sure, right, Tats and Rapskull are part of that, but one, those two are compelling characters in their own right, and two, the whole story is really involved in whether or not Thymera feels she's deserving of love and happiness in her life at all, which makes the entire story, I think, a lot more compelling and a lot better than the lame YA cliche that a lot of people label it as. Secondly, we've got Elise. And look, Elise, I think, is such a great character. Both Elise and Leftrin. Let's go ahead and pair those two together, because Elise is just a heartbreaking character. She's such a likable character, but she goes through such hardship, right? And it's not the kind of hardship that Fitz goes through in the Farseer or Tawnyman trilogies, but it is no less harrowing and heartbreaking to read about, because Elise is someone who's trapped in an abusive and manipulative relationship, but a subtle manipulative and abusive relationship, right? Because it's not a straight up physically abusive relationship, it's emotionally and psychologically manipulative and abusive, which is just as harrowing and heartbreaking to read as a physically abusive relationship. And her journey of breaking away from those chains and getting to like create a life for herself outside of that relationship with Hest, who is probably just as despicable of a character as Kyle Flipping Haven from the Live Ship Traders trilogy, by the way. I think that's a great story. And so because of that, her story with Leftrin, look, it's cute. It's a cute story. Are we not allowed to have a cute, fun little romance in a Robin Hobb book? Because Elise and Leftrin are so cute, you guys. And it's so much fun to read. And the way Leftrin just falls for her so completely and is so down bad for her from the first moment they meet, it's just, I'm sorry, it's adorable. Guys, let's get real for a second. Hobb books are an exercise in surviving suffering. And sometimes I think it's nice that we have a book that has a nice, cute, adorable little romance that you root for and that you want to see happen, that's just wholesome, right? It's the kind of relationship that I wish Fitz and Molly, I wish they had this kind of vibe, because then I might vibe with that romance a little more in those series, you know what I mean? It's just good stuff. And it's really heartwarming that they actually end up together and that they get that happy ending. You know, for once, Robin Hobb gives a happy ending. Isn't that great? Let's talk about Cedric. I think Cedric is probably my favorite character of the entire duology. Not that he's the most likable through the whole thing. He's probably, well, he's definitely not, but he's definitely one of the most complex characters of both books. And I think he's the one that goes on the biggest transformative arc through the entire series. He is just like Elise, also trapped in an abusive relationship, and he doesn't realize it, right? Because he thinks he's on the in with Hest. That's just a really sad journey to read. It's also, he's heartbreaking for, just totally different reasons, the way he's manipulated and controlled by Hest. And it's heartbreaking because in his desire to please Hest and his cognitive dissonance in thinking that he's on the in with Hest, he ends up also controlling and abusing Elise. And he helps Hest control and abuse Elise. I mean, that's pretty harrowing. That's pretty tough to read. And so watching his transformative journey from that of selfishness and somebody who is a victim of this guy also breaking free, and him and Elise bonding eventually over that shared trauma of how Hess destroyed them, and then being able to come out of that and become better people. I'm sorry, is this just not interesting? How could this not be interesting to you? Like, this is so rich. Like, the dynamics between Cedric and Elise and Hest, so fascinating and compelling to read about, and it's so heartbreaking and it's so complicated. This is, just a lame YA love triangle because it involves three people. I don't get it. And that brings me to another tangent about this book, because a lot of people label this as a lame YA series because it's got some love triangles in it, and most of the characters are going through coming of age stories or journeys of self-discovery. There's some really heavy crap in these books. Like, some really heavy violence, some really heavy themes, some really heavy scenes and moments. There's some really harrowing crap in this stuff. This book, sure, it may feature a lot of young characters, but this is a series that's firmly for adults, and I do not understand why people label this as YA. Dragon Keeper Haven is Robin Hobb at one of her favorite things that she likes to do. It's a slice of life journey. Robin Hobb loves her detailed journeys. This one's no different. Like I said, this entire book is just one journey and all the obstacles and dynamic changes and power dynamics that go along with a group of people stuck on one boat for a long time. And I find that stuff interesting, right? The situation on Tarman and all the social and power dynamics there is like a powder keg waiting to explode. Explode it does. People go through hardships, relationships form and are broken apart, dynamics are formed and changed. It's all really interesting stuff, really detailed. I don't know what to tell you. If you hadn't realized that you don't like detailed slice of life journeys, how have you made it this far into Realm of the Elderlings? Because this is present in all of the previous 9 books. So yeah, book 1, great stuff. Love it. And if we had stopped right here, I would have been a staunch Rainwild's defender and said that this is just as good as the other series. Unfortunately, I have to give ground a little bit, right? Because we didn't stop there. We also had book 2, City of Dragons and Blood of Dragons. And yeah, so I hate to once again be on the outlier and have the inverse opinion of like the popular opinion on the internet, but where a lot of people hate book 1 and say that this one is the really good one, I'm here to tell you that no, the first one is the good one, and this one is the I'm not going to say bad one, but it's the worst of the Realm of the Underlings. So let me talk about why I think people really like these ones over the other ones, right? I think it's pretty simple to understand. One, there's more Rainwild's characters in this one, right? Malta and Rain come back in. There's a whole subplot with Selden that's going on in the background as well. So a lot of good Rainwild stuff. So a lot of good live ship stuff happening in this one. But not only that, this one also has a lot of connections to Farseer and Tawnyman, right? Because this is the book where they end up in Kelsingra, which, if you recall, is the city that Fitz teleports to through the Pillar Stone in Assassin's Quest. And so we're learning all about that sweet, sweet, juicy lore from Assassin's Quest about the Elderlings and their city and all this stuff. And so these 2 books super connect to the rest of the series. So there's a lot of lore and world building that happens in these that makes a lot of things from the previous 11 books make a lot more sense. So why didn't I like this? Well, like I said, I really appreciated the first book because I enjoyed the powder keg scenario and the constantly changing dynamics of the road trip novel in the first one. And in this one, the road trip is done. The journey is done. The characters have made it to their destination. And then what's left is for them to spend 900 pages walking around the city, repeating the same old events over and over. The kids are getting into Memory Stone and discovering Elderling artifacts, and the adults don't want them to do that because it's dangerous, but then they keep doing it, and they keep getting changed, and they don't want to change, but also they kind of are tempted by the Memory Stone, and maybe they shouldn't do that, but they do, over and over and over again, and the dragons want the silver, but nobody knows what the silver is or where the silver is, and where could it possibly be? Let's keep having chapters where people are looking for the silver, but can't find the silver. We found the well where the silver's supposed to be, but there's no silver. Let's spend half a book just hanging out by the well, looking for silver. I felt like this one did a lot more spinning wheels, and as much as it was kind of cool for the first little bit of City of Dragons, to see Kelsingra, to see the world building of the Dragon City, to see stuff in the Memory Stone or things that the Elderlings built, to get a more complete understanding of what happened with the Elderlings, as much as that was fun for the first half of City of Dragons, it keeps going for like 700 more pages, and it gets really repetitive and really boring. I am loath to admit it, but it is really unfortunate for me to report. Thymera kind of sucks in these books. As much as I will defend her in the first book, and as much as I really loved her journey in the first book, unfortunately, Robin Hobb, I think, just kept the character arc going for way too long. I think that Thymera's journey, sure, constituted part of this 1,000-page trek, and I think Thymera's arc should have ended there, right? Like, she should have ended a part of her coming of age and self-discovery here, and then went on to new and better things in this book now that she's arrived at the city. But instead, Robin Hobb doesn't do that, and so she spends all of book 2 still struggling to pick between Tats or Rapskull. And could we not have done that in the previous 1,000 pages? We needed 900 more pages of choosing between Tats and Rapskull. I think what people are talking about when they complain about Thymera is the stuff that happens in these 2 books. And I think that if Thymera had concluded this part of her story between Tats and Rapskull in book 1, I don't think people would be complaining about her. Unfortunately, it just goes on for too dang long. I mean, she doesn't finish this part of her journey. She doesn't pick until literally the epilogue of this series. And that's a shame, because I really loved Thymera and her journey in the first book, and I would really love to see where she was going in this one, and it's just more of the same. She's just spinning her wheels, which cannot be said of the other characters, right? Like, the other characters all go through further parts of their journey, right? So like in the first book, sure, like Cedric's whole deal was shaking off the shackles of Hest and finding a new life, a new purpose, a new love with his dragon and with Carson. And then in this book, he gets more development because then he learns how to like basically do stuff for himself, which is great. Like that's for the development that he needed. Thymera does not have an extra thing that she gets to learn, right? She just has a bunch of character moments about going into Memory Stone, and then does she want to screw the Memory Stone version of Rapskull or hang out with Tats? Oh boy. And also, I don't know. The connections, like they're fun, but they're not enough to carry a story for me. And so yeah, there's a lot of great connections to the previous books, and that's fun. But that's not what the story where I'm getting from Robin Hobb's story. Like I like her world building, but it's not what I read her books. I read her books for great character stories, and the ones in here, especially Thymera, just aren't as good. So where does that leave us when we take the 2 books and the entire series as a whole? And I think what we look at is we have a really freaking good book that's just as good as Robin Hood's other work, and one book that's okay. It's, you know, it's kind of meh. And taken together, I think what we have here is a series that ends up being pretty good, honestly, right? Like if this is the weakest book that you write in your series, that means you have a pretty dang good series, right? And if this is what most of the internet considers the worst book you've ever written, then I'd say you're a pretty dang good writer, because this is good crap right here, you know? So all told, right, I don't get the reputation that these books have, because there's some really freaking good stuff in here. There are characters in here that I love just as much as the characters in Life Ship Traders, just as much as in the Fitz books. The story in here and the world building is, you know, like, especially if you're into world building, this has like the most world building of the whole series so far. So how could you not like this either? The dragons are like as cool as they've ever been. They're so compelling. I don't even know if I talked about how great the dragon story is in this, like, because there's actually, you know, I'm thinking about it so much I wanted to talk about that I don't have time for. But yeah, the whole dragon side of the story is really good too. What I'm left with is the question, why do people hate this? I don't get it. So you tell me. I think Rainwald Chronicles is actually pretty good, and it's something that I will definitely keep including in my rereads of Realm of the Elderlings. And I guess what I want to ask is, you viewer, I want to ask, why do you hate the Rainwald Chronicles? Or do you? Well, guys, that has been my review for the Rainwald Chronicles. Keep on the lookout for my review of the Fitz and the Fool trilogy coming soon. The final trilogy in the Realm of the Elderlings. It's almost over, and I'm really sad about that, but I'm excited to see how it ends, excited to see what comes next. So until next time, guys, see ya.